All right, a Boise State win at 30-7 at face value seems like a pretty good proposition. Now, the way they got there, of course, had its ups and downs, and there is no way to sugarcoat the fact that the offense did not perform as well as it could have in the second half. Before the game started, I made a comment about the noise, and the coaching staff, including specifically Coach Avalos, said, hey, the team did a good job of tuning out the noise last week. Well, that is another way of saying people second-guessing everything from quarterbacks to defensive play to personnel to whatever happens in college football when people second-guess or criticize players. And, of course, as social media is more and more and more and more mainstream with all kinds of different users, you get more and more people willing to tell somebody what they think without attribution sometimes. So that changes the way that that's expressed. And kids read it, and they try to tune it out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think coaches know it gets in their heads a lot more often than not. I think core fan groups know this and are starting to pay attention and get a handle on it. I know some message boards are edited around the country. Others aren't. The Bronco Country board or other Boise State boards, I don't know what their policy is, but I bet if it's really flaming or something, they'd get in there and edit that down. Nonetheless, I think sometimes we all have to be mindful that if you are speaking directly to the player or coach that you want to criticize, how would you handle that? And you may want to proceed in that manner if you really have an investment that is beyond some transactional relationship where Boise State football is nothing other than another TV program for you or something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's your choice in how you want to interact with any of this stuff. And increasingly, college kids playing football are getting paid. They're going to start being more mainstream, and they're going to face more criticism and scrutiny because of that. So I just noticed some of these changes. There was also, I thought, some pretty good noise. And watching the television broadcast, again, the Albertson Stadium crowd comes through and lives up to what is truly one of the more phenomenal reputations in college football today, is its ability to impact the game and change the outcome and penalize another team. And in this case, it was Tennessee Martin, delay of games, false starts. It's a remarkable record. The design of Albertson Stadium is impeccable for crowd noise. The fan intensity, as Andy pointed out, the south end zone people really bringing it to the Tennessee Martin folks' offense when they were down there was all noted. And I think it's good to bring that out, that again, that advantage at home is one of the greatest things in college football. And it's well beyond this blue turf thing. And so fans' ability to impact the game is never been more prevalent. As I said, the noise, bringing negative noise to players and having them read it and telling them their worth in your eyes and how you see it, and then bringing your noise at a game and impacting it against the opponent. So two very different examples. The frustrations over Hank Bachmeier's performance, I'm sure, are felt by the coaching staff and, of course, plenty of fans, myself included. And I think at this point in Hank's career and where he's at, I don't begrudge him for who he is and where he's at. I just take that at face value. If there is something that I think there is an observation to be had is, and where I default to, because I look for the best. I'm trying to see the best in what this team can become, and I don't think contributing to the noise in a negative fashion, from my perspective, as long as I've watched all of this, would be best served by being overly negative. But if there is an observation I have that does surprise me, is that this is the best quarterback that Boise State has in its program to win football games and, frankly, live up to the expectations of delivering more than 76 yards in the second half against an FCS opponent. and doing it creatively and doing it with panache and flair and having more explosive plays, and they did get some more on the board. All of those things really falls on the shoulders of the offensive staff and players and quarterback. And so that's where I was surprised in the offseason that they didn't go out and grab somebody that they felt really good about transfer-wise that could either compete or take the position if Hank did not perform up to their expectations in offseason workouts or fall camp or spring ball. And it's evident that he is the best option. And if he's struggling and they don't have a better option, if there is some blame per se to be passed out, I would go there. That's where I'd start, right there. That's the best we got. Okay, so there's nobody behind him that's any better. And if there was, I am 100% certain that individual would be in the game. I don't care who it is, that individual would be in the game. There's been enough challenges offensively that they would change it. So that's where I would suggest there is some challenge. As for that second half, 76 yards gain, 9 tackles for loss overall in the game, the Tennessee Martin defense came up with. Let me look at some of these stats. Boise State passed for only 40 yards in the second half. I think Andy pointed it out. If it isn't, maybe the right protections that Hank is getting them into or out of, it's just the pass blocking itself. And I think offensive linemen unanimously would agree they like to run block because they're kind of in charge of their own destiny and they can move forward and take care of it. There's a lot of coordination in pass blocking, and this offensive line's not gelled yet enough to get this done. I think they do miss Dooley. That is somebody that is needed. I'm not watching these workouts day in and day out. None of us are, so I don't think we can get too far in the weeds. But the coordination in pass pro for not only the front five, but the tight ends and the running backs as well, who have to pick up blitzes, is only going to be more intense for this offensive group because as Tennessee Martin found success with overloading one side or the other or delayed blitzing or blitzing up front, they're just confusing them and they're bringing it to them and they're on their heels and it produces too many negative plays. And I think that is a concern for this team moving forward, that it's not just an offensive line thing, it's an offensive pass protection thing. And I think they've got to figure out some better options to cut down on those situations. And the best option is to run the ball as effectively as they did and not get in so many third and longs and not get, as they like to put it, behind the chains. I think that one of the recipes for success is George Holani left, George Holani right, George Holani middle, George Holani screen, George Holani ISO'd on a linebacker downfield. I would ride him until the wheels fell off at this point. I think he's the most talented player on the team. I think he's the closest thing they're going to have to replacing Shaq. I don't know that there's a pitch count on him or a number of snaps that they think Jeanty needs to get some reps in there to give him a blow. There was a time in the game where I thought George looked winded after just one play. I'm not saying he's not in shape. How would I know? I'm not running sprints with George Holani. And he's a very quiet kid. But I think that would be the only key I can see at this point, is that everything's better when Holani is involved in the play. And he gets second effort yards. He makes the first guy miss. Ashton Jeanty is just still figuring it out. He's more of a straight-ahead north-south kid, which I think is so tremendous at a young age to be as fearless as he is. But they're going to need somebody with some wiggle in his ass. They're going to need somebody who can make people miss. They truly need a 1-2 punch. And they've missed on some running backs to get that done. They didn't miss on Jeanty. He's going to be the future. He's a great north-south runner, and he's a punishing kid, and he'll only get stronger. But they're going to need some. You think of the great running back tandems in Boise State's last 20-plus years. They've always had a guy who could, whether it be Avery or just wiggle and miss, Harper, somebody who had some elusiveness. And you've always had the Martins and Ajayis McNichols, guys who could go between the tackles and run straight ahead and maybe make one cut and go upfield. So these are all the things that I see. At the end of the day, this was a 30-7 victory, and I thought that should start the conversation that despite not playing their best, they come away with a 23-point win. This team needs confidence, not criticism. They criticize themselves enough. They're going to go through film sessions for criticism. The coaches are trying to build them up, and I think that at times it misleads us as we listen to the comments that come from any coach about the players, and that can set, I think, early in a season, some very false expectations, because that's all we have to go on. Oh, things are going great. It's the best they've looked, and everything's awesome, and blah, 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 blah. Well, they're trying to give them confidence. They're still in the game. They're speaking to the team through the media. So all of this stuff is going to filter down. I think the UTEP game will be interesting because, again, it's another road cure opportunity for them to get healthy there. I thought the Fresno game, if you didn't watch some of that against Southern Cal, was tremendous. Fresno's front gave SC everything they could handle till they ran out of gas. And Hayner's injury took a lot of gas out of them. They competed with SC well for the most part. Of course, the offensive machine through the air for Southern Cal was a little much for them, and I did think they got gassed. But that's going to be a darn good football team to deal with. Now we know Wyoming and Air Force are good. So Boise State still has to get better as a team, and they've proven that they can do it before, and let's hope that they can do that again. That's how I see it. Give me your thoughts, your emails, your any other way, text you want to get it to me. I always like to see what you guys have to say about this. Please subscribe, pass this on, the Kingdom of Pod here on the Believe Broadcasting and Podcast Network.